Hey guys, my name is Joel Daniel. I'm broker with Greenleaf Real Estate here in Temecula. I wanted to make this video for veterans for VA loans. I feel like there's a lot of information out there that isn't correct. So I am here with Charles Vemdeva with Patriot Pacific Lending. He is the absolute king and he knows everything that you need to know about VA loans. He helps a ton of veterans. So today I wanted to go through 10 things you need to know before using your VA benefits. And in my opinion, not having the knowledge or not knowing what actually comes along with your VA benefits is sort of detrimental to you, especially when you're trying to buy a home. So today we're going to go through about 10 questions and hopefully answer many of your questions you might have about your VA benefits. So yeah.
Good to go. Thank you, Joel. Yeah, it's a great thing to talk about. You know, veterans really need to know as much as they can about using the benefit before they actually step out and use it, so that they don't get themselves in trouble, and also they don't miss an opportunity as well. So.
Absolutely. So again, I'm just going to go through the questions that we made up and we feel that are important. So using a lender that specializes in VA loans, can you just go into detail a little bit why that is important?
Oh, that's critical. There are so many different types of loans. There's actually 4 main loans, right? Conventional, FHA, VA, and then USDA. And then there's some peripheral products that are sort of exotic products if you don't fit those categories. It seems that VA has so many nuances and underwriting guideline specifics that are not well known. And so for that reason, a lot of loan officers are just not savvy in the VA product. And this happens again and again and again. I've talked to a veteran that's talked to a big box lender or someone they will refer to by their cousin, their realtor, whoever. And you know, this loan officer is not savvy, and then stuff starts to go sideways in the middle of the process. You want to work with someone that eats, breathes, and sleeps this stuff. Yeah. And this is what I do.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that point, almost every week, guys, I see Charles post on Facebook that he saved another VA loan from somebody, and he closed in 10 days. So he's not just telling you that he knows what he's doing. I promise you, you know, I see it almost weekly on him closing VA loans that others just did not or were not able to do. Okay, so number 2, 3 ways. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so there are 3 ways to have your VA loan approved. Can you just go into those questions?
Absolutely. Very important to know, because if you're talking to a lender and they only use one method of getting a VA loan approved and you don't happen to get approved, they're going to send you on your way and you're going to leave as a veteran thinking that was it. That's the only answer. When in reality, there might have been 2 other paths that could have been taken to get to a VA approval. So the first 2 are basically automated approvals. The computer is making a decision. It's an algorithm, a risk algorithm that's plugged into the VA. And the first one's called DU. You've heard of it, Desktop Underwriter. DU will make a decision whether the loan's doable or not. A lot of lenders stop at that.
Okay.
There is another engine, another automated system called LPA, Loan Prospector. That's, you know, backed by Freddie Mac. And so sometimes you'll see a DU denial and you'll flip this file over to LP and you'll get an LP accept. See? And so it's a travesty if you stop at DU and you say, well, I can't, that's it, you're done, we can't do the deal. Now, if LP and DU both fail, we can say to the computer, hey, thank you. We're going to take this to a real human being, a real person with a brain and experience and some feelings, because it's not just rationale that gets a VA loan approved. It's an underwriter deciding, hey, that this veteran's past circumstances, were they unusual? Do they warrant an exception? And so this human being is going to make a decision to override what happened with DU and or LP. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you got 3 different ways, and we call that a manual underwriting. It's an old school way of underwriting. You got a real person sitting there making a judgment call. You know, is this person worthy of a VA loan? DU said no. LP said no. Underwriter says yes. Okay. And that's good enough for VA.
Now, one of the questions I would have as not only an agent, but also maybe a buyer is, you've been doing this a long time. Do you have relationships with people that are underwriters that, hey, you can call them on the phone, talk to them almost personally with your business and your experience over the past however many years?
100%, Joel. Great question, by the way. And I feel like it's imperative that a good loan officer has that in the quiver. You have to have a relationship with underwriter. You can't just be talking to someone in a high tower behind an 800 number that you don't have a relationship with. I can call my underwriter on a Sunday afternoon on her cell phone. And the chances are she'll call me back. And one of the things that I've done over the years is if I've gotten an underwriter to make a favorable decision on what was a very marginal situation, and she's a little spooked, and she's like, oh my God, I hope this doesn't come back to bite me in the butt, I will remind her a year later, 2 years later, hey, remember the Smith loan that you funded? Thank you for doing that. He's on time. He's making his payments on time. Or he sold a home and made $100,000 equity. And so I'm reminding the underwriter that it's okay for her to be bold to make a decision on the veteran's behalf.
Awesome. I mean, I can't say how important that is for everybody involved to have relationships that can actually close some of these loans that maybe a lot of other companies just would not be able to do.
I agree. I agree.
Okay. Number 3, can you talk a little bit about your military service, and is it sufficient for your entitlements to the VA?
Yeah. A horrible shock in the middle of a loan application or loan pre-approval process can be the veteran sitting there thinking, well, I served, I am eligible for a VA loan. And that's not correct. You have to be eligible and you have to qualify. And sometimes either the character of service or the length of service does not meet the VA's requirements. Did you serve in the military? Yeah, you sure did. But you didn't serve with a discharge that's acceptable, or you didn't serve a sufficient length of time. See, and so the assumption is there, but it's not justified, right? Okay. And then we have some situations where we had one fairly recently with a National Guard member. It took him a while to get his NGB 22, NGB 23 documents to prove to us that, and we had to send that in to get the certificate. It can take time, and you don't want to go into contract right away not having that eligibility certificate. See? So short answer, just because you served, it doesn't automatically mean that you have VA entitlement. We have to get the certificate of eligibility. We have to look at your length of service, character of service, and make sure that you are in fact eligible.
Okay. So to go further on the certificate point, and I might have that question, but let's talk about that now. In your opinion, what should VA buyers do up front in regards to the certificate to make sure they have that before they're in escrow? And how long does it take? Can you just go into that certificate? Because it sounds like from our conversations that is one of the most important things that the VA buyer needs.
It is the most critical document in the VA loan package. Without a certificate of eligibility, you're not getting a VA loan, right? You're not entitled. And so the veteran doesn't have to wait on the lender. The veteran, when I say veteran, I'm referring to active duty and, reserves and National Guard. They can go on the VA website and pull their own eligibility certificate.
Okay.
You don't have to wait for the lender. You can do it for free. We can do it, for active duty, just a driver's license and maybe a recent LES. For veterans, your discharge document, DD-214, or some of the older days, DD-256. There's some other documents, and you upload that, and we can get it within a few seconds or a few minutes. Or sometimes the VA will come back and need some more information, but it's not something that takes weeks and weeks and weeks.
Awesome. So for you buyers out there, if you're not computer savvy, if you don't feel comfortable enough yourself getting your certificate, Charles can do that, right?
Yes.
You'll figure that all out for them.
I'll do it all day long.
Okay,
do it
there
all
we
the
go.
time.
Okay. Little known VA secrets that even your lender may not know. Can you go into some of those and just, obviously this is a really important question, but yeah.
Yeah. Not all VA loans are cookie cutter loans. There's some exceptional circumstances that might apply to one particular veteran that doesn't apply to another. And so we've got to know what are those nuances or secrets, if you would, that we could take and apply to the loan to make the deal work. For example, it's not widely known that the seller on a VA transaction can pay veterans' debts to help him or her qualify. It's an amazing thing.
Wow.
Credit card debt, even collections, auto loans or whatever. So knowing that, if you have an opportunity and you need to apply that rule, hey, you got to know. Secondly, the seller can pay to help get rid of the penalty, pay the penalty for the veteran breaking an apartment lease in order to go buy a home.
Oh,
see,
okay.
or even a regular house lease or whatever. So those are some specific, not very well known. I don't want to call them secrets because they're plainly written in the VA handbook, but they're not widely talked about.
Yeah.
Another one that's not very well known: a veteran that's got a second job with only a 1-year history, we can use that income.
Okay.
See, so there are some secrets, if you would, that a specialist would know that your run-of-the-mill, regular, everyday loan officer, lender, underwriter might not be privy to.
Okay. And just to add to that point, for anybody watching this video, if you have specific questions, if there's something that you think is holding you back, or if there's something that you just don't know, again, call Charles. He will spend some time with you going through all of your questions, all of your concerns. And maybe when you thought up front that you wouldn't qualify because of this reason, maybe that has nothing to do with you qualifying for the VA loan. So don't hesitate to reach out if you are wanting to purchase a home, but you don't think that you're going to be able to do that. There's a good chance that there's a workaround for it.
Yes.
So, okay. Can you put a civilian on a VA loan with you if necessary?
You sure can, and they don't even have to occupy the property. Okay. So you might have a friend, a family member, someone close to you that's living in another state. And why would you do that, right? You would only do that more than likely if you need more help, more buying power, right? Now, there are some restrictions that come into play. There's a down payment that comes into play the minute you put a civilian on the loan, because the VA is only going to guarantee the veteran's half of the loan. But we've done them numerous times. We're putting a civilian with credit and good income saves the deal, makes it happen.
And you think, in the military, a lot of these people are younger, maybe 18 to 24, and maybe having a parent help you with, can you help, with the down payment? Are they able to help with that? So they can.
Yeah. Going a little bit of a side journey on this as far as a civilian assisting a veteran, right? Really what we're talking about now. Civilian can give a gift for down payment. They can pay debt for the veteran to get rid of debt. They can help cover closing costs. They can co-sign. There's a lot a civilian could do for a vet.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, number 6, the VA doesn't decide interest rates, lenders do.
Yeah, I've had veterans tell me, well, they've assumed the VA is doing the loan. You're not going to the VA for the loan. The VA is only going to back and guarantee the loan that a lender is going to do. A bank, a credit union, a mortgage company, a brokerage. So these different financing entities each have their profit points, right? They've tweaked their pricing engine. Let's just be honest. There's no reason to hide it. Every lender is different in how much profit they decided they want to make on any given loan. And so not all lenders are created equal. You'll see a pricing disparity between one lender and another. So it is smart to check and see, how does your interest rate that you're being quoted, how does that line up against this lender's interest rate? Now, brokers have an advantage because they can line up 20, 30, 40 different lenders, just like that Progressive insurance commercial, right? It's funny, they show all the other insurance companies. Brokers do the same thing, and oftentimes that saves the veteran from having to shop around and have their credit pulled all over town.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that's good points. Beware of lender overlays. Can you just explain those? You
go into a restaurant to eat and you're wearing a T-shirt, and the guy in the front says, "I'm sorry, you can't come in because you're wearing a T-shirt." And the person leaves and they don't eat that. They had money in their pocket and they were hungry, but they didn't eat that day. Come to find out, the restaurant didn't have any such rule. It was the person at the front desk, right? That's what lender overlays are like. VA is the restaurant. The VA loan, that's the restaurant. You want to go eat. You want to get your loan, right? The lender is at the front desk saying, well, I need you to have a 620 score. Or I'm not going to do a loan on a manufactured home. or your debt to income ratio can't exceed this threshold. There's all these restrictions imposed that are not true VA guidelines. Does that make sense?
Yes.
They're the lender's preference. We call that overlays. Okay. And the more overlays a lender has, the less likely you're going to be able to jump through all those hoops and get to the finish line. You really want to work with a lender that has minimal or no overlays.
Okay.
In order to make sure that you can, as a vet, access the true guidelines. Otherwise, what you're really looking at, Joel, is a mutant VA loan.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay.
You know?
I got you. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I would guess that you having relationships with maybe many different lenders or VA lenders, you're able to find the lender with the least amount of overlays.
Absolutely, 100%. And sometimes we do go to a lender that has a specific overlay because that overlay doesn't hurt our file.
Okay.
See, the lender might say, well, we're not going to go over 60% debt to income ratio. And my veterans ratio is 33. Well, that overlay is not going to impact me negatively. Yeah. And they have great pricing. Oh, so you're right. We would navigate the file to whoever is going to fit the veteran's, need the best.
Awesome. Okay. To secure a VA loan, you must intend to occupy the property for 12 months.
That's the fact.
Okay.
When you move in, when you're getting a VA loan, a purchase loan, you can't say, well, I'm going to buy it. I'm not going to live there. I'm going to go over here. You can't do that. You have to state you intend to occupy the property. Well, what happens once you move in and you get orders to move to another duty station, or God forbid you got divorced and you guys part ways or something happened? If there's a legitimate reason why you couldn't fulfill the occupancy, we're not going to hold you hostage. The VA is not going to hold you hostage.
Okay.
But the intent has to be there. Okay. When you get the loan, hey, I'm going to move into this home and I plan on living there for a year.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah.
Okay. There are many types of homes you can buy using the VA loan.
I did a class one time on Camp Pendleton Marine Corps Base, and the service member decided he wanted to buy a dome home. And I was like, what in the heck is that? And sure enough, the agent sent me the listing. I'm like, wow, that looks pretty amazing. And I checked with underwriter, is this can we do this? They're like, yeah, we can do it. VA loans can be done on dome homes,
wow,
manufactured homes, modular homes, multifamily, 4-unit properties where you could rent some units out, multifamily properties, obviously a single family home, a PUD, a site condominium, a regular condominium, townhomes. There's a lot of different property types that you can put a VA loan on.
Okay, follow-up question. I know a lot of these complexes, like condo or townhome complexes, they have to be FHA approved to be able to do that. Is this the same thing for VA? Do these complexes have to be VA approved?
They are. They do. They have to be on the VA approved list.
Okay.
However, there's a couple of little ways to circumvent that. Well, not circumvent it, but fulfill that requirement. One is, if it's not approved, we can go about trying to get it approved. As long as the HOA cooperates and they give us the pertinent documents, then we can take that to the VA. It's not a long process. It can be under 30 days. Now, going further, if for some reason the VA looks at that package and says, we're not going to approve that complex, and the veteran says, I still want to live there, the veteran can basically tell the VA, look, I'm not going to hold you liable. I still want to go into that project and get a waiver from the VA. And they'll let that one veteran move into that community where the community is not VA approved.
Wow.
It's a wonderful thing.
Wow. These are, some just crazy points that I'm sure a lot of veterans just don't know about.
Sure.
Now, another question with that, does the manufactured or mobile home for the VA to lend on those, does it have to be on a permanent foundation?
It does. Okay. It has to be permanently affixed and considered real estate because, obviously if it's not affixed in that way, it's not considered real estate. The wheels and axles have to be removed. You've got to have a certain kind of foundation. You've got to have, in California, we call it the 433 recorded document. And so it's got to be considered real estate.
Okay. And then final question on that, just to clear everything up. Buying land, construction loans, is there anything that the VA does with that?
There sure is. It's an amazing opportunity because, I'm sure, as soon as you put that land and that built home together, you're walking into instant equity usually. So the VA has a program called the one-time close, OTC. Veteran goes and selects the land, a vacant lot. Veteran goes and selects a licensed general contractor. That contractor is given an ID on the VA portal. the work begins, I'm sorry, before the work begins, the VA loan is funded before the shovel hits the ground.
Okay.
The loan's funded, probably a 2-month process, and then the work begins. But the VA loan's already funded while there's nothing there.
Wow. Okay.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a VA construction one-time close.
Okay. And how does it work? Just as the construction progresses, the VA lender pays the contractor for work that's getting done.
Yeah. Yep. The money is initially, when the funding happens, the money is set aside in some sort of an escrow account, trust account type of thing, and then it's dispersed to the contractor phase by phase upon approval for whatever work was done. Foundation, stucco, whatever, framing, whatever step is done, the contractor gets dispersed.
Awesome. Okay. And finally, you can purchase a home with your VA loan, even if you are deployed or at another duty station.
Yes. It's a great opportunity. A lot of service members, they want to close on a home while they're not here, right? And so you can use a power of attorney. Now, obviously, occupancy becomes an issue. Right, you're over in Afghanistan, or you're over in Iraq, or you're over wherever you're at. How and when are you going to move into this property? Now, if the deployment orders give a specific date when they're going to come back, usually an underwriter is going to work with that as long as it's less than 12 months.
Okay.
Or if that service member is deployed but married, the spouse moving into the property satisfies the VA rule.
Okay.
See? Now, what if the service member's at a different duty station, right? Norfolk, Virginia. Here we're in Marietta, California, right? So they're going to come from Virginia to here, but they're not going to move in for 9 months. Can you buy a house now, today? Yes, you can, as long as you, service member, can point to a specific event in the future and say, that's going to happen in my life on that date, and that's when I'm going to move in. And if that's acceptable, then we could do the VA loan. For example, I am retiring from service on September 27th, right? We're recording this in March. That's 6 months away. If we can point to that event, we can potentially do the VA loan and still close now and expect you to move in after you retire over there.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much.
Sure.
I learned something. I'm sure VA buyers here have learned something. Look forward to working with you on some VA loans or some more VA loans. And if you have any further questions, you can reach out to myself at Greenleaf Real Estate here in Temecula, or Charles, Patriot Pacific Lending. The office is in Marietta. But thank you very much.
You're so welcome. Great discussion. I think it's great information that we need to put out there. And thank you for the opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you.